Welcome to the Truth Train channel. Truth. This is a video introduction into someone who is absolutely incredible at what they do. I wanted to see a counsellor, not just any counsellor. I wanted to see someone who was deep, who was unconventional and not part of the mainstream. And I found Lorna Morgan-Wilson, the spiritual counsellor, who was incredible. The realizations that I got within that hour just blew me away. I was going in there to repair the relationship with my sister, because let's face it, we all have our fair share of shit. And you know, often like our ego just stops us from going and stops us from spending money on ourselves, and you're just like, nah, we don't need a counsellor. But I really did, and I really saw the benefit from it. It was incredible. And I've tried mainstream counselling, well, one strand of it. I remember when I was going through my darkest depression, I ended up going to the doctor, who referred me to CBT, to see a CBT specialist, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. And when I was in there, and I'm not knocking the NHS at all, because it's different strokes for different folks, but it just didn't work for me. It just wasn't nurturing. I sat in that chair and I felt like I was ill, mentally ill. That's how it made me feel. So I was like, nah, I need something more nurturing. So this is the interview with Lorna Morgan-Wilson. I nickname her the Oracle because she reminds me of the Oracle from The Matrix. You are literally like the Oracle in The Matrix. Do you remember I said that last time?
Candy?
You already know if I'm going to take it.
Wouldn't be much of an oracle if I didn't.
But if you already know, how can I make a choice?
Because you didn't come here to make the choice. You've already made it. You're here to try to understand why you made it.
Every single one of us, under the circumstances of our experience, we are normal. Because everyone identifies that the experience as though they're not normal. So picture this: spiritual essence, the physical being. Every single one of us, when we're locked into this 3D matrix, this physical awareness, believes what we're told and what we think. But that's from the experience that we make decisions about ourselves. But every one of us, doesn't matter what our lives look like, are completely normal. Wow. And so the challenge is to discover from that soul perspective why your soul, consciousness, would have wanted those experiences. What are you to do with that knowledge and awareness? Why are you having it? You're not being punished. It might feel punishing, but the ultimate goal will always be the light, which is love.
I was introduced to you through Selena, one of my good friends. And I came to you because I had an issue with my sister at the time and I wanted some counselling. And I came for spiritual counselling. And I know that you offer a lot of other healing disciplines. But first of all, I want you to talk about the difference between spiritual counselling and the conventional counselling that so many people are aware of.
So conventional counselling doesn't take in the idea that we're more than just a physical being. It focuses on our physical everyday reality, how we think and feel and what's going on in our lives. And also it's not interactive and problem solving. It's more about paraphrasing, helping you to have clarity about what you think and what you feel. And so it's, for me, not as exciting and as productive and as changing as spiritual counseling, where it's more interactive. It's more goal-oriented to having you come into balance within yourself, mind, body, spirit. Because if we're not in balance with ourselves, we're just still going to be having issues because we're going to be uncomfortable in our body, uncomfortable in our life. So traditional counseling has a purpose. It helps you to find clarity. But spiritual counseling, you acknowledge that there's more to you than just the surface layer and more to your existence than just what's going on in the external world.
Would you say then it's more expansive than the conventional?
Definitely.
Okay. So it's taking you to different parts of yourself that you probably wouldn't be aware of with the conventional.
Right. So the conventional deals with the conscious mind, surface layer of your consciousness, how I think, how I feel, what's going on in my life. Spiritual counseling is more, there's deeper things. I can't quite put them in words. My body feels them. My intuition feels them. I have different things, fears, uncertainties. I can't quite figure out where they come from or how they are, but I feel it affects me on a deep level.
Why do you think that the conventional way of counselling is so far pushed? Is the kind of in the mainstream? Why is kind of spiritual counselling still a niche? Why do you think that is?
Well, because the Western medicine mind only deals with the symptoms, not the cause. And Western medicine doesn't really accept that we are spiritual beings. It's more, this is it, this lifetime, that's all there is to it. And it's just in what you see. And so rather than trying to find the root cause of things, it's just let's dull the symptoms so you don't feel them.
The reason why we came to talk is because we started getting excited about the darkness and the darker side of life. But first, before we start, I know you've got a lot to say on your history, but just give us a brief outline on how you came about becoming a spiritual counsellor. Why spirituality, and why did you come about wanting to heal people in this way?
Well, I'd sum it up very simply. I've just been trying to understand growing up in a dysfunctional family. And as the middle child, what they used to call the lost child, I was in the perfect position to study the family, to study what's gone on before, what's going on after, how my parents and adults are. And so I just wanted to make sense of it all. And I just was naturally a voracious reader. I mean, I used to read the fine print in my mum's nursing books and the newspaper on packages if I could find nothing else. So there's always this thirst for knowledge, and more so than that, understanding. And also the middle child, the position, we're the ones that are the peacemakers in the family. We want everyone to get on. And so I think my soul, to use that term, designed that position for me to come into, because it would give me the tools and the desire to want to understand and then to help.
Okay. And so that's initially where it came from. And when we talk about the darkness, a lot of people listening to this will be like questioning and be like, what does that mean? And how does that play a part in our lives? When we talk about the darkness, what does that mean to you? Or dark energy? How does that look? And how does it fit within everyday life? Because a lot of people will just...
Darkness to me within us is the things that make us uncomfortable, the things that make us not want to breathe deeply into our body, the things that make us afraid of life, the things that we criticize ourselves about.
And so we're all affected by the darker side of ourselves.
We cannot not be. Think the yin yang symbol. I mean, you'll have people who are into the new age that think it's all about light, but the light cannot exist without dark. And darkness, everything comes out of darkness. We have spiritually what you call the void, and it's nothingness, darkness. And from that, things manifest.
So if darkness is necessary, there is an argument that there's almost too much darkness in our lives and on Earth now.
Right.
You know, we go through a lot of crap, a lot of pain and suffering. So.
Yes, but that's because of now. I like that you said now. The Earth goes through cycles. The ancient Hindus would speak of the yugas, and there's lots of world groups that are far more older than the West. In the West, we're very young. We're on what, the second millennia, 2020. They go back way, way back before that. And what darkness is it gives you the opportunity for light to exist. It creates a field, a tension between the two to hold things in place. And so in the West, we're not told anything about spirituality. In fact, if kids have daydreams, they're told, you know, get in touch with reality, which is right in front of your face. Everything is pretty much 3D. But the reality is that it's much deeper than that. And we feel that there's this yearning for wanting to connect with ourselves. Who am I? I'm searching. I mean, you know, I'm looking for who I am. And who we are will always equal some parts of dark and some parts of light, because it gives us the opportunity to make choices. If you're all light, you can't make any choice. There's no point.
Yes. There's no polarity.
No.
Yeah.
So what I explain to everyone who comes to see me for a session, and I'm going to use my hands, imagine that we're spiritual beings. Whatever labels we give that, they're labels. And all labels are things we create with a conscious mind. But what we know now as the spiritual being is consciousness. And to come into a physical body, into a physical form, you're going to have filters on your consciousness to enable an experience. Because as consciousness itself, which is in everything, animals, plants, every sentient thing, it just is what it is. But if we come into a human life, we're going to have filters on those consciousness, and those filters might be family patterns, but not just how the mother and father thinks, but that whole ancestral lineage, because that's what makes your family think different from the neighbors. Beliefs, conditioning, all that stuff, your astrological chart, your numerology, archetypal energies, all those things, they're just filters. And factored into those filters is the opportunity to make choices for certain experiences. And people often think, well, if I'm experiencing bad things in my life, it's because I have bad karma. But what the subconscious often says is, bad karma, no. They're getting the tools for what is to come. And so our early life creates the foundation for whatever we've come here for.
Okay. Let's break down the soul and the human being. So, are we all born with a soul?
I don't know, because there's different trains of thought, but I have to tell you, from my experience, speaking with people's subconscious mind, they never use the word soul. Soul is a word that we introduce. It's a word that the conscious mind creates to try to conceptualize something. But I'll stick with the word soul.
Okay.
And so some of us end up what they might call being soulless, or not connecting with our souls. But if you're a human being at this time, whether you have a soul purpose, or anything connected with soul, doesn't matter. The mere fact that you're here, you're going to have to deal with this reality.
Okay.
And a part of our denial of ourselves is our lack of willingness to breathe.
And when you say lack of willingness to breathe, what do you
Fear holds our breath in.
Okay.
If you think about the only thing that keeps the human body alive, knowing that it is alive, it's the breath. If that body stops breathing, then the life is not physically there. And so the breath is what connects us to our natural source. Whatever we might want to call that source, I like to think of it as an inner resource, an inner source, rather than God or this or that. Because, you know, those are loaded words. And so that breath is what connects us to our life force. However, what fear does is it disconnects us from our breath. So even if I were telling you something about a neighbor, some juicy gossip, you would be holding your breath. What happened next? And holding your breath. And if you're thinking a fearful thought or something shocks you, you hold it in and you trap it and lock it into your body. And so the body holds the symptoms of everything and the memory of everything we've experienced. And when it becomes an uncomfortable place to be, we're naturally going to disconnect from ourselves and therefore our light. And it's like we're going to be set adrift in different ways. And that sets the ball in motion for the experience. If we accept that we are more than the physical form, and it's what we call spiritual essence or non-physical, then we have to accept that there is non-physical realities. And that consciousness, since we know it doesn't die, we know this from people who've had near-death experiences, we know this from people who have out-of-body experiences, lucid dreaming, that your body can be sleeping but your consciousness is still awake. So we know that there's consciousness fields that are active and alive and well, so to speak, that's completely separate from what we think of as our physical reality. And so if we accept that there is a spiritual realms or spiritual existence and that we're very much a part of that, then it's, for me, it's easier to realize and understand that just like we have what we might call angels or guides, then we're going to have some that are also negative, because we will also create what we want. So if I want to have someone come in to help me to do good, or, you know, I'm praying, please, you know, guardian angel, or, you know, my guides, help me to do good. Well, by my intent, I can also call and say, please come in as my guide to help me to do something negative. And that something negative will always be self-serving. But if you want to take it to another level, we have a 3-part brain. The original brain is what they call the R complex, the reptilian brain. And the word reptilian comes up so much now. And it's the original brainstem. And if you look at life as it evolved on Earth, well, the reptiles were here way before humans. And so that reptilian brainstem is the survival one. We like to reject it because the word can be scary and it just, you know, is loaded with all kinds of alien inferences.
Connotations,
but it's very much a part of our original way of survival. And what the reptilian, the original brainstem does is it's focused on survival. It's also focused on me.
Okay, there you go.
And it's also focused on ritual. And so if you then look at evolution, and it's an other part of the brain, it's the mammalian brain. And what are the mammals? Community. I'm going to nurse my young. I'm going to keep you within the flock. I'm going to culture you. So it's about us, not me. And so if you look at things masculine, everything is external with the masculine, including the masculine body. And so what male things think, or take it to another level, left brain, right brain, masculine, feminine, what the males think is that if I do a certain ritual, I'm going to manifest what I want. What the feminine knows is that just like nature, it will just evolve and it will just happen, because everything comes out of the ethers anyway. So masculine is willpower. So if I want wealth, and I'm focused on a masculine perspective of that, I think, well, I'm going to have to go out and conquer, and I'm going to have to do these things, and if I do this, that, and the other, then it's going to manifest, and then it's going to happen. That's a ritual. Whereas the feminine knows it just gives birth to things. It just happens because it's connected in a receptive way. Everything with the female is inner. With the masculine, it's outer. So you'll find, if we go back to darkness, in the times when they were trying to turn lead into gold and all the alchemy, it would be, you know, if I did this, that, and the other, it's going to work. Whereas the true gold in alchemy, it's an internal process, because we're designed as alchemical machines. That's why we cannot pretend enlightenment or anything. We're either there or we're not, because once we're there energetically, the process just naturally opens up within the body. Everything is a force. Feminine energy is a creative force, as is masculine energy. It's like Tesla said, think energy, frequency, and vibration. Not humans and non-humans, but frequency, because that's, you know, what quantum physics is showing. That's what the Vedas spoke about. It's energy, and so it's manifested energy. And what manifested in our reality is our intention. It's our thought, it's our desires.